people, it's me, Anja, my pronouns all she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new video. But before we get started, I just wanted to quickly say some housekeeping things. First of all, I'm going out of town in less than a week, which is very exciting, and I think that I've filmed enough videos in case I don't film anything while I'm there. Second of all, when this video is out, my podcast has officially launched its first episode, which is very exciting, but also quite daunting. I said in that podcast episode that I will be filming maybe once a week, which is absolutely not true because it sounds so daunting already. But my first episode was like 50 minutes. So basically, I don't know exactly how often I will be posting, but there's that. This is an exciting new avenue for me. It's a bit random, of course, hence the title of the podcast itself, but you can find it on Spotify. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoy that. If you just want to see like a neurodivergent person rambling about literally anything, that's where you'll find it. So anywho, this video is about cohesive book reviews. So the first book is Behind Five Willows, which is a YA historical fiction retelling of Pride and Prejudice set in 18th century Korea. And I had really low expectations for this book because I don't think I've finished a book before by this author, but she historically writes like Korean historical fiction books. I really loved this one a lot because I loved like the romance and the characters and the setting, and I understood their connection and their chemistry right away. And I also understood the Pride and Prejudice like references. I have read the original book in high school, but I've never seen the movies or anything like that. But anyway, I think this book is really, really good, and I really enjoyed the plot and the romance and the characters and everything. Like, I think this book is genuinely very good. So with that said, I rated it 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Reasons to Look at the Night Sky. This book is a middle grade contemporary following a young main character whose science class takes a new direction. I think this book was really good because I love reading about main characters navigating through change, because change is always inevitable, especially at a young age in middle school when so many other things around you are also changing, like your relationship with your best friend, for example. And I think this book depicted everything so well, and it felt so wholesome, and I loved the characters and the plot and the world building and the family dynamics and everything, and how her relationship with science and art evolved over time. And I loved like her curiosity and everything. As someone who loves knowledge and is always curious about things, I really like this book a lot, and I think it's really, really good, and I think it's really underrated, which is something I say all the time about multiple books. But anyway, basically I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Corspe de Ballet. I think that's how you say it. I don't really know. But anyway, this book is a YA graphic novel, contemporary, that follows a young main character who's a ballet dancer at a new boarding school, and her memory starts to become manipulated by the staff. I don't know exactly what's going on, and that is my biggest gripe with it, because I felt like there should have been more closure and more answers towards the end. This book is marketed for fans of Black Swan, and maybe that's how that movie went. I've never seen that movie. So I think the only thing that I've seen Natalie Portman in is that movie that she did when she was really young, and she was like an assassin's apprentice, and also in Thor. Like, that's it. Anyway, that's a taste of my podcast in case you're interested. Anyway, I thought this book was good, and I appreciated like the illustrations, and I was intrigued by the mystery initially, but I just didn't like how it ended, basically. So yeah, I really wanted to enjoy like a dark academia haunted ballet boarding school type book, but that just wasn't delivered in my opinion. So with that said, I rated this book 3 stars, so take that as you will. The next book on this list is called Buried Feelings. This book is a YA contemporary following a queer sapphic main character who is doing this scavenger hunt around town that's connected to queer history with her friends, and she's also reconnecting with her ex-best friend. I thought this book was really good and really awesome because I loved the characters and the friend group and the romance and the scavenger hunt, and I love learning about queer history. I think that everything was so solid and so well done. I love it when a book has a friend group and nobody in the friend group feels one-dimensional. Like, I think that everything that happened in this book was so wholesome and so well done. I had really high expectations for this book, frankly, because Kit wrote a previous book that I read last year, or maybe the beginning of this year. Anyway, it was so good. So I'm so glad that this book was also really, really solid. Like, I love an ex-best friend to lovers romance. Like, the queerness of this book was so good and so well done. And I loved Ivy, like, as a main character. Some people might find her to be annoying, but I think that that's the point. Because sometimes teenagers are annoying, but, like, it's honest, it's raw, they're figuring themselves out. And you can't expect somebody to become a mature adult immediately. Anyway, like, you have to give teenagers grace and nuance. I digress. I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The last book on this list, and definitely not the least, is called Hallie's Rules for a Recovering Romantic. This book is a YA contemporary, and technically it's a companion novel to the author's previous book, but I don't think that you need to read that one, frankly, because I didn't enjoy it that much, so maybe you won't too. Anyway, you can read it if you want. That was a joke. Anyway, this book is a YA contemporary following a black bisexual main character who swears off romance in the hopes of reinventing herself, and she's currently spending the summer at this, like, academic camp, and basically, she does indeed fall in love with possibly her roommate. I think this book was really, really good and really well done because, first of all, as I've mentioned multiple times, I love books set at a summer camp, and I loved, like, her relationship with her parents and how that evolved when she was given freedom and independence. I think it's really important to explore what your relationship with your parents looks like when you're away from them and you're no longer using, like, the safety and the privileges that you've gotten from them. If that makes any sense, when you're staying in a new place with other authority. Anyway, I loved the characters, I loved the sapphic romance, I love Hallie as a main character. Some of the side characters, like her other friends, do feel a little one-dimensional, but it's totally fine in this context because I truly fell in love with the romance and with Hallie as a character and everything. Like, I think this book is so good. And like I said, I personally think it's better than the previous one. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. So in conclusion, my July reading month is off to a strong start. In terms of my other hobbies, let me think. I'm trying to finish my manuscript this month. Hopefully that will happen. Maybe it'll happen when I'm out of town. I don't know. My podcast just launched. I don't know exactly how frequent I'm really going to upload episodes because I'm still trying to figure out, like, the technical parts of doing that. For example, how do I edit my transcript? Because I know that given my experience editing subtitles on YouTube and my speech impediment, that whoever is going to listen to those subtitles is not going to have a time of their life. So I have to figure that out. Second of all, in terms of my hobbies, reading and writing come first, which means that filming my YouTube videos comes first over my podcast. which is why launching a podcast when I don't have like ample free time is not the wisest idea, but you know, we all have side quests. So anyway, in conclusion, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the koala emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!